Hello, this is Alternate Perspective. I'm your host, Susanna Vett. This show is a platform for different perspectives where I bring people of different spiritualities, culture, different activist work. Today we have Yemaya, who does somatic healing. So, tell us what is somatic healing.
Hello everybody, my name is Yemaya Gypsy. I've been in the somatic healing world for over 25 years.
Wow.
I started on my path really early. Some of us are being propelled on our path because of necessity, which actually give us a really great background because the work that we offer in the world then comes from a very personal experience.
Yes.
So somatic, it's actually quite a buzzword right now, especially here around Santa Barbara for some reason. I've been here about a year and I was surprised how many times I see the word somatic, somatic meditation, somatic movement. And, what I felt for 25 years, I was just like going with my little somatic bag on my shoulder, traveling the world and having people, well, what are you doing? What is that? Mm-hmm. So somatic is, from the word soma, which means in Latin, the body.
Okay.
And so it's everything that has to do with the body. There's a somatic nervous system, which, is based on the nerves, the skin, the muscle, what makes muscle contract and relax. But I think a lot of people, when they use the word somatic right now, are a lot talking about psychosomatic, the relationship between the mind and the body.
But it's very different. Or does it interrelate to now?
Yes, it's the connection between how our mind influences our body and how muscular contraction and memories or cellular memory even can interfere with our decision of the mind. So it's the science and the healing arts around that are bringing a wholeness, so that there is that integration of the psychology, the mental, and the body, and also the emotional body, and in some cases the spiritual bodies as well.
Okay, because to me, to be honest, this is the first time I heard it was from our mutual friend Dana, and I was interested. She told me that she got very fantastic work done by you, and then I met you, and so actually knowing what goes on and how it functions is very interesting. When do people come to you specifically? Do they come with personal traumas and they hope through this modality? Do you massage them, and then what exactly happens?
Okay, so I'll take one question at a time. So people come because there is either discomfort, pain, or a desire for growth and expansion. So if they're coming from pain, it can be a physical acute pain or chronic tension, something that they haven't been able to heal. They've tried different modalities and nothing is working. And I'm talking, neck pain, lower back pain, digestive issues, or an emotional pain that keeps representing itself in people's life, in their relationship, at work, and they're, of course, most of the time related. And then I have some people that feel like they reach a certain plateau in their emotional growth and they want to, feel more loving or more relaxed or have better relationship with their children. So they're also coming from that place. And then I have people that are coming because they're in the healing world. Lately I've had coaches coming to me wanting to understand more of that relationship between the body and the mind so that they can support their clients, their coaching clients, in understanding what's happening in the body, in the energy centers, so that they can help them let go of old patterns.
Okay. It seems like therapy, actually. It sounds like very holistic therapy.
Exactly. It's very holistic therapy that's bringing the body in because it's giving the opportunity to the body for the body to have a voice. And there is a lot of things that can happen in our minds, and we can heal the mental space. But we said in my work that the mind can lie. The body cannot lie. The body doesn't know how to lie. It's the primal part of our humanity. It's like an animal. And if you learn to read the language of the body, if you learn to give the body a voice, then you are able to really know the truth of what's happening with somebody that you're working with. Like if you're just discussing things with someone, a lot of healing can happen there, but the mind can be very tricky, and can play games, and you don't get quite to the core of the issue.
Yeah.
The body is also slower to heal, so sometimes you could heal something with psychotherapy, but the body keeps bringing the emotional patterns in because the muscle haven't released the habit of contracting or reacting in fear when there's been some really old traumas. So the work of a somatic therapist or a somatic body worker is to catch up the body, with the rest of the being.
Okay, which makes sense. Like I know I have a back issue, and with my physical therapist, we're training my body to go like, you're not hurt anymore, but like my back isn't aware of this yet.
Right.
So it's a similar thing. So it's like a combination of like dealing with this, the mind, and also training the body to follow suit. So
Exactly.
It's a little bit of both. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and the way that the method that I've been using for 25 years is based on a work called the Rosen method, body work, which is very in-depth training. It's a 4-year training, and personally I stayed in the school for another 4 years, training with Marianne Rosen. And then, after 25 years of running, my own practices, I actually created my own work, which I call Bones of Freedom, because I feel like it's the skeleton of the full freedom of a human being. But what is very unique with that method is that it has touch and verbal in the same time. And there is something really magical that happens when you are being touched in the places that are holding the fear, the contraction, the trauma, and in the same time be gently brought deeper in so that the old issues can come up to the surface. Then they can be embraced. People realize, whoa, I survived this. And then there's an embracing of it, and from that there is a let go and a release of that. One thing I'm particularly excited about right now is that I've been wanting to be able to address communities that are not in my direct environment. I've been quite a bit of a traveler through my lifetime. I love exploring other countries, and I've had the chance to grow communities in different places in the world, and I've been looking for a place and a way to work with people without having to jump in a plane and go visit my faraway clients. And what's very, very exciting for me this summer is that I finally, after 3 years experimentation, I finally found a way to work with people via the internet.
Oh.
And that is amazing to me, and I feel like it's a blessing because I wasn't sure how that was going to work.
Yeah, I can see something that's very hands-on and having to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
Is that the program you mentioned?
It's part of this new program that I'm offering. I'm offering one-on-one sessions, and I'm also offering courses now.
Oh, wow. So can you give us more information about the program? A little bit, tidbits?
Just a little bit, because it's still, like it's the final push of the birth right now. But I'm a kinesthetic empath, or an intuitive empath, if you would. So before, I needed my hands to be able to read people, and feel people through my bodies, which, was very helpful because usually, it's giving me an advantage, because I can feel what people feel and help them reflect on that. So I can work very, very closely with people. And so lately I found a way to do the same thing through the screen of the computer, where I'm able to feel what they're feeling, but with the distance. So there's those one-on-one sessions. I'm also using some indigenous wisdom oracle decks in the same time, and some meditation, some very in-depth listening. And that's create a session where I've had people that have worked with me in the bodywork formats, and now switching to the online, and to them it's the same thing.
Oh, that's good.
It's the same release. People still cry. I've been known for a long time as the lady who makes people cry because that's part of the healing journey.
Yeah.
and it's that release of the emotions.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm able to offer that, to people that are, in New Zealand and in Canada and in Hawaii,
Mm-hmm.
Europe. And
Yeah.
that's really exciting. And I also have a 21-day online class that's going to be starting in about a month.
So for people who are interested in learning how to do somatic healing, or is it also specifically for people who just want to learn how to deepen their path?
Yeah,
essentially?
that's more helping people that want to deepen their path, or people that are recovering from loss.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be all kind of loss. That can be the loss of youth. That can be the loss of a beloved one. It can be the loss of health. It can be a loss of career. So it's a lot of helping people move through transitions in a way to really enrich their lives and help them come back with a very, very strong heart and a very strong presence in life, instead of like having to retrieve and hide. I'm helping people come back and really show up in life in their heart and in their happiness.
Okay. A question. I know that you started this very young, but a good question for me is like, which was the day it was like, this is for me. Like, this is the thing I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna. What was the story behind that one?
Okay. So I grew up in France, as you might hear. I left home at 16. I left home really early. I had I was, if you would, victim of a strong childhood adversity. And I had been the victim of violence and deep abandonment at a very, very young age. So I left home at 16. I was in France for another 5 years, and then I moved to the States when I was 21. Looked for my way, because I left. I think I was pretty lost. I was lost. I was angry. So I had 2 or 3 years of what a lot of people would do in my case. Like people would, usually grab onto addictions, alcohol or drugs or sex, and partying, and we're all familiar with that. Those ways of numbing oneself, to the pain that's been passed through. And for me, luckily, I had a very, very sensitive body, so I couldn't do those things too much or for too long without getting very sick. So fairly early on, I think when I was about 25, I decided to go and live in a Zen monastery and reflect on my path and my journey. And it's when I was at the Zen monastery that something happened that really triggered my abandonment in a way that was debilitating, meaning like I woke up one morning at 25, I was looking 70 years old. I mean, seriously, I could not stand up. I was in so much pain that my entire upper body had contracted, and I was folded in two, and I could barely walk. So that event, after that event, someone gave me a brochure of that Rosen method therapy that I ended up studying in depth. And pretty much when I went for my first session, the practitioner laid her hand on my back, and the sorrow of my young lifetime just came, and like huge tears and release came for me, and that was pretty much the deep, the very first day of a really deep love relationship with my own healing journey and helping other people go through that as well.
Okay, wow. That's a beautiful journey. Very intense. And okay, so a lot of what I see in our spiritual community is spiritual bypassing. Do you think that somatic healing would be a good tool for someone who needs to overcome that? And because society right now is, let's just put it, complicated, and there's things going on that are not that great. And sometimes some of us, in not wanting to deal with that, going to this spiritual bypassing. Do you think somatic healing is a way to make someone who's not willing to confront these issues to be able to, guess in a gentle way, be able to start being honest with themselves and stuff like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, because the body doesn't lie, and a lot of people that are using spiritual bypassing at some point find that there is a lack of aliveness in their lives, because they're just keeping certain part of their lives numb, right? So there is that can be experienced as a lack of aliveness, a lack of enthusiasm, or a lack of truth or depth in their relationship. And that is a gentle way that can, help someone with that. I'm personally a strong believer and a very, very strong active promoter of feeling.
Your feelings.
Feeling or feelings. Because I believe that we have a very specific organic makeup that help us, once we go down into a wave of feeling, to come back up and come back out in a very rich way. And the more we cut that way, the more we resist feeling our feelings and feeling our pain, the more we have the chance to create chronic tensions and illness in the body. I feel like a lot of illnesses that we're facing right now are connected to that lack of willingness to be just letting ourselves take that wave of healing, that organic wave of feeling that brings you to healing.
And just asking you, how do you feel about this need to hide from emotions that has kind of become a little bit of a theme in the community? How do you feel about that? And I guess your best advice about that, I guess feeling your feelings is one of them. For someone who isn't there, who could understand about feeling your feelings, what would be the best advice?
Well, there is a lot of reason why, when we choose that. And as you know, what's happening on the planet right now is quite overwhelming. We have a lot of fear, that if we open the door to the world of feeling, we're going to be completely, tumbled by the wave of it. So I think my advice is, to start gently and to start with a lot of self-love. To be willing to feel, but there is something about really trusting. We say the body doesn't lie, and the body won't bring up things that are too harsh for one to experience and still feel, uncomfortable in their shoes. And it also depends, who are we talking about? If you're talking to about someone who's has a history of mental breakdown, then definitely, you want to have a really strong support system, and maybe even professional, surrounding that journey. If we're talking about someone that, that has regular human trauma, which, we all have, then, I'd say, start the journey, find a somatic therapist, start dancing even, start to do things that bring you in your body. Dancing is a wonderful way to do that.
I agree.
I'm a big dancer, and I've done a lot of work, using dance as medicine. Breathing, going to yoga, because you'll learn to breathe in places in the body that we usually don't bring breath in. Journaling, if that's what you're asking me, little tips that can help people if people don't have the means, maybe to go see someone, and afford someone.
I know that because to me, what I like of what I'm hearing, because it's also accessible for someone who is, has chronic depression and anxiety, as someone who does deal with anxiety. And, sometimes people say it's always all in your head, but sometimes it's, you need to have a better relationship with your body sometimes. And it's not just always in your head. There are things going on. And so this seems to address that other portion that doesn't get addressed often, because I do have friends who also have depression, OCD, ADHD, whatnot, and to me this seems like maybe a great venue for them. Maybe not so much OCD, because I know there's a touching issue with OCD, but maybe it could help overcome that to a degree. Have you dealt with people who have these disorders, because I know they'll have not disorders, mental illness, with they have their psychologist and their counselor, but have you had someone who had that and decided to come to somatic healing?
Absolutely, it's usually a really, really great combination. I have a lot of people that have been working with psychotherapists and coming to, like I said, to catch up the body up to speed. It's a really good combo. When I have people that come, it's part of my questionnaire. When people come and work with me, I'm always asking, are you under medications? And some people do, some people are on antidepressants, and still, they feel like they need that, to function, and but they're also able to do the journey. That's a deeper healing with the work that we're offering. With the somatic body work. And then there is something that I find important, and that's beyond that work that we're talking about, is because the somatic healing, it's almost like a peeling of the onion, right? Or an unwinding. I use the word a lot, unwinding or unfolding. So there is a sense of letting go of stuff so that you can find a very true essence-oriented place, but that can feel a little raw. The very important part is to also rebuild a healthy strength, around that core, around that essence. For me, it was yoga. Yoga was while I was going through my own journey of unraveling, the pain that I had as a child or as a teenager. Once I was able to also practice, discipline like yoga and meditation and pranayamas, which are the breathing exercises, that really helped me rebuild in strength, and support who I was in the world. That's what I'm offering in the 21-day course.
So you're also offering that. So you're offering the onion peeling, but also the foundation building.
Yes, that's really, really important, because you can't walk in this day and age, like raw, open. You need to have a strong core and your feet on the ground. Yeah.
Also, have you had people with serious disabilities come to you as well with for somatic healing, and obviously with their crew of doctors, and done this process with them as well?
Yeah. Well, if we're talking strong physical illness, I've had some cases. I had someone. I was living in Kauai for many years. I had a healing center done on Kauai. In the Hawaiian Islands, and one of my most successful case was this one client who had really been living with the result of a stroke. This man was practically a genius, but he, half of his body was paralyzed. And through the work that we did together, we were able to, his hand was totally glued to his body. That way, we were able to completely relax his arms. To the point that he was able to use his hand again.
That's fantastic.
That was amazing, and we entered that journey, both of us, not knowing if it was going to work, and it did. So I have some people that come with some serious physical issues, and again they've tried everything, but not that deep connection between the cellular memory, the emotional pain, and the physical wellness. It's like it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. It's like we're all about contraction and expansion, right? Everything does that in our body. Our heart contracts, open, contracts, open. A healthy muscle contracts and open. If you have completely contracted muscle, it's not working. If it's always loose, it's not working either. So it's to be able to do that and help people regain that ability to and their choice. It's like it's really giving people a choice. Because perhaps it's useful sometimes to know, oh, this is a dangerous situation. I need to create to put myself on guard, and also knowing when, wow, someone is trying to love me. And it's like, and I want to open my heart. So. But a lot of us were not able to do this. We were not given the choice anymore because we're in contracted position, or we're so loose that everything's happening to us. You see a lot of people that are struggling with mental illness, right? It was they're so sensitive, they're so empathic. It's like the world is constantly running them over, right? So it's like we want to find, a balance in our ability to open and close, to protect and expand and shine. And I feel that's a lot of the work that I do is giving people that chance, so that it can be a conscious choice and not just like a habitual patterns that keep coming back.
Yeah. No, I totally understand that, because I do have friends who have anxiety, depression, but also they have fibromyalgia. They my own parent has a rare condition that causes chronic kidney stones, and stuff like that. Again, I have my own stuff, and And sometimes what's hard in the spiritual community or the holistic community is finding things that are accessible for people who have disabilities and mental illness, that, you know, this isn't going to be over a day, or something is just something that they're going to have to learn to manage the rest of their life.
Right.
But another thing is learning to manage and it being a burden, but learning to manage and having a better relationship with it is completely different. But you don't often see someone acknowledging that portion. Often what I see is people's like, oh, that's all in your head. You need to get over it. And I'm like, sometimes for people it's not that. It's just going to be an ongoing relationship that either you can help improve for them or it worsens.
Right.
And so I really love this because this is something that connects your body one, which is a huge portion of what you use all the time. It's like your main tool of your life.
Yeah.
And your mind, but also acknowledges that people are just in different places and sometimes they have situations they didn't ask for and that they have to manage.
Yeah. Yeah.
That, like, I really appreciate that, I have to say. And for people who are disabled and are interested, like, how would they approach this? Like, what would be the best advice you could give them for them to be really aware of this and what they're looking for in a specific person who'll be understanding dealing with these disabilities, mental illness? Because I know sometimes, you know, you need a specific person who's like open to your certain situation.
Right. Are you asking me how would they recognize, you know, practitioner that they would want to work with?
Yeah, like the investigation, kind of like what you do with your doctor.
Right,
like,
right, yeah. Well, I would definitely, you know, look at the background of the person. I also would, you know, like choose someone that I resonate with. You know, I think that's really important, you know, for us to trust our intuition. I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but I guess I'm going down that road now.
That's fine.
You know, I think, like, you know, observing, and it's part of, you know, it's part of the healing. It's trusting oneself and trusting one's guidance and intuition, right? So, you know, like if you're trying to go in a certain direction, let's say you're trying to book an appointment with a certain practitioner, and there's something in the way constantly, you know, like they're not available, they're out of town, your car breaks down on the way, you know, anything like that. I would maybe reconsider, you know, I would just like, okay, what's going on here? Is this really the person I'm supposed to be working with? Just as a way to retrain your intuition and your own guidance systems, right? So that you're not always dependent on someone else's.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important to, you know, to feel, you know, like to feel if someone is genuine, you know, have they done their own work? Where are they coming from? What is their purpose? What is their level of depth? You know, and depth doesn't always come with age. You know, I mean, it's great to choose someone, you know, that comes from experience. You know, and for sure, you know, I know more now than I knew when I started. But I feel like I was already pretty good when I was in my late 20s. Perhaps because, you know, I came from my own experience, you know, and had a lot of compassion for people, you know, for my clients. Yeah.
And I guess also like my situation where I'm doing physical therapy, where it's just like I injured myself 3 years ago and whatnot, or a person who just injured their leg and they're trying to get back to being able to do the sport they want. Would this be also a viable option along?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know that one very well, you know, because I've been a professional dancer and a professional yoga teacher most of my life as well. And all my injuries I healed with this work. You know, again, because most injuries often comes from the fact that there is a contraction in that part of the body. You know, so let's say you have a contraction behind your heart because you've had to protect your heart as a child because you were abused or because you were abandoned. Let's take a simple case. So there is an emotional pattern, an emotional contraction happening in that area. Now, you are a sport-oriented person, and suddenly you're pushing, let's say, I don't know, you kickboxing, and you're doing this, you know, like a lot of physical activity using that part of the body. there is a lot of chances that at some point there'll be an injury coming to that place, because you are exercising strength and effort on a place that's contracted, and a place that doesn't have its normal fluidity, of expansion and contraction. So, physical therapy and like massages are great tools, but sometimes unless there is the emotional component is addressed, the injury won't heal fully. So, like if you had, something in your lower back, if you have lower back injury, often it comes because there was a contraction there. Why was there a contraction there? Maybe you had a lack of support as a child. It's like the body has this, anatomical emotional map. So, some people, people come to me, it's like, I hurt myself, I injured myself, I was playing basketball. Great, yeah, it's basketball's fault. Sure, and where are you hurting? Where did you injure yourself? And then as we track down, interestingly, that's exactly the place where there was a lot of emotional tension, based on childhood issues. So, I understand that people go, oh, it's just physical. I slipped in the street, and I, did this to my leg. But why your leg? It could have been maybe your lower back, or, so I feel like where we get injured is very often related to where there was originally a tension.
Okay. Well, it makes sense, because like an emotional reaction to life is just your body being tense. Like if you're stressed, you hold tension. Like I hold tension in my shoulders when I'm stressed. So it makes sense on that. Now the way you're talking about it actually made me analyze my life. I'm like, it actually makes sense where I can explain it. But all right, so that is a good way to actually start like doing therapy for your own like muscles that you injured, and getting back into the sport. Because I know for me, I had to stop dancing for 3 years, and so physical therapy was like a godsend. But I'm guessing that people who are also in the same position and can do somatic healing, or prefer to do somatic healing, can also get back into dance or the sport that they want, doing that same work.
Yes. And absolutely, and that will be the unwinding and the unfolding. I love the physical therapy for rebuilding strength, or the yoga or whatever, So there is definitely.
So you can do physical therapy and somatic healing at the same time.
Absolutely, it's absolutely, it's perfect.
It's just perfect. Like this is the first thing I heard when I was like, you could put in everything. It just makes the sandwich a lot better. It's great. And then on deepening path, it's so with like obviously with physical therapy and more physical injuries, yes, you're doing the emotional thing, but the concentration is really more on the physical, but on like the more emotional, which is the spirituality. How do you approach that too? Is it similar, or is there a different approach, or more of a bigger emphasis on the emotional things, or on what your goal is in your spirituality?
So the emotional work, I feel like gives us a couple of things. So that it gives us that spaciousness, like that non-reactive, like because until you have unwound the like the inner tension, the inner emotional tension, you're going to be in reaction in the world, right? When someone is going to push that button, boom, you're going to react. So once you're able to do the unwinding work, and you have a lot more choices now, not only you have access to a lot more richness in your life, but you can also use that in your creative life. That's another part that I really like to support people towards. It's creativity and purpose. A lot of us, stay stuck in places because of a lack of confidence, or that feeling of having a lack of choice. That can be a relationship that's not really helping you blossom. That can be a career who's not helping you blossom. And something is, just keep, calling you to make a change, but people don't know how to, or they're not sure they can. They're not sure their self-worth is not built enough that they will step into what really can be their real life purpose. And that's somewhere, as that I'm more and more interested in supporting people towards, because of the state of the planet right now and the state of things at large. I believe that the more of us are really stepping into our full life purpose, the more chances we have to make a difference. And that's why myself, in my life, in my career, I'm preparing myself, with all the online work to have a lot more of an impact because we got to.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of why I even do this in the first place.
Yeah.
So I can't say no that I don't, because I do. So I understand on that level. So you have had people go they're on their spiritual path. I don't know, they're in Buddhism, the New Age stuff, or the different, even Catholic, Christian, whatever. And they go hey, I want to deepen my connection with God, or I want to be more aligned with my higher self, or I'm not entirely sure what happens in Buddhism, but I think it's being more detached, not too reactive to emotions, but being more in equanimity. So have you had people come to you and go this is my goal? How do we get there?
I have had, and usually my answer is that's your goal. Now let's see what the body tells us.
Oh, okay. So we go by the goal of the body, less about what.
Let's see what's really happening on the table. When I do the table work, and I don't want to dismiss people's intention. And it's part of a direction. We can work. But work towards. But in order to avoid the spiritual bypass you were, speaking of earlier, I'm okay, great, or people would come and say, I really want to work on this. It's okay, and let's see what's really wanting to come up today, because I think a very important piece is I want to stay, and I want to help people stay present. What is really happening right now, because perhaps yes, you want to experience more detachment in your life, or you want to, feel more devotional, or great. That's beautiful, and what is really real today. And perhaps it's that. Perhaps that's, perhaps we take a loop in a journey that brings us back to that place, perhaps someone has to be able to release their solar plexus and their diaphragm, which the physical work is really helping people do that, so that they can take more expanded breath, and from that place, access a deeper connection with their spiritual life and their source, and therefore be more devotional. Yes, but we'll loop around, why was there contraction in the diaphragm and the solar plexus in the first place that was keeping them from experiencing that deep level of devotion?
Okay. Have you had really stubborn clients that they just don't want to go there, and you had to really work for it?
Yes. I have.
They're no, we're not going here.
I think the most difficult clients are the ones that really are very much in their heads, meaning they're usually very, very smart people. Sometimes they would be actually intuitives, people that are really used to, use the brain.
It's the first time I heard that intuitives use their brain a lot.
What I mean by intuitive is maybe what we used to call psychics,
No, I know, I get it. But that's usually not the word you usually hear. But it's interesting.
That's something I've noticed, because I have friends that that do that, as their main career, and when I've worked with them, they were the hardest one to bring back in the body, which is it's lovely, and to see that the journey, and because it's such a habit, for them to just keep working in that realm. So. Or people that really use their intellectual mind to stay away from the feelings, because the feelings, were painful, and they buried them really, really, really deep. I can be pretty fierce in my work. I can be very, very gentle and super compassionate and soft, and that works really well with some people. And with some other people, sometimes I have to bring the sword out and go, kunk. And my main mentor, Marion Rosen, was very much like that. She could be fierce, Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. So, like, if you need a, like, okay, we need to slay dragons today. Let's go slay dragons.
Yeah. I'm no BS, you know, and
No,
people love
it's
that about me.
I know, that was the first thing I found very endearing. I think I recall that was like that you had complaints about something. I'm like, I love you right now. Well, it's like it's preferable to be like fierce and honest and in your feelings than like try to like what you see beating around the bush, because like then you don't know what's going on and who stands where. And I think that's one of the things I love about this. It's like, yes, there's a very spiritual component, but there's like, but no, we're going to talk about your feelings and where you stand and where we're going, and we're going to deal with that shit first. But I prefer that, because it's like you don't often see that in the spiritual community. And so like to me it sounds like it's very grounding, because you're in your body.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like often what I see is a lot of people are not grounded in their body, or just not grounded whatsoever. So it's really good at grounding people.
Yeah.
Do you sometimes just do that for like, they just come in and they just need to be grounded and in their body?
Yes, very much so.
And
very much so.
All right. Is there any interesting stories that has happened in this journey, like of like even fierce ones of like, oh my God, the hardest client of my life? Or
there's beautiful stories. I mean, it's like I feel so blessed, you know, to have had that path for my career. You know, there's a few clients where, you know, that I was feeling them so much that, you know, that I would cry with them, you know. Maybe more in the trainings time, you know, like I remember this one student where we would just like literally cry on top of each other, working on each other, because, you know, there was so much similarity and you know, it's so touching. I mean, I feel like I'm privy to the depth of people's heart, and I feel so honored, you know, to have that chance to be with people in their deep grief and in their beautiful bliss. You know, it's like most sessions, you know, will have that really. I call it the wave. You know, the oceanic wave of healing, where you like, you know, you go down, 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 and you're being tumbled, and it's like, you know, there's a lot of pain and a lot of tears and a lot of snorts, you know, that I'm coming through sometimes. Not always, of course, not always, but they're my favorites. They're my favorites, you know. And then, you know, and then you come back, and then it's like suddenly you're like, you know, like you went through, you released, and then it's like being gently rocked into a really warm pool of water, you know, and usually the sessions end with like people being in complete surrender and peace and grace, you know, and for me to be with them in that time and just, you know, complete that with them, surround them, cocoon them into that space of grace, you know, as we close our time together. It's also so special and so precious, very, very precious.
And I really love the story of like crying on top of each other, but like obviously this can take a toll on you. Like I'm a caregiver, so like when in part of my training, what I've heard is like sometimes the caregiver needs a caregiver. Is that the same context for you guys? Like sometimes the somatic healer needs one too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, I had such a good cry yesterday. I was worked on by an osteopath that was passing through town. And believe me, I got my good cry yesterday, and that was good.
It was like, because like I get it, like you, like as a caregiver or as a somatic healer or someone who is like doing therapy, taking care of someone, you take on a lot of like.
Yes and no, and you know, I mean, you need to learn to work with that, and you know. I think maybe when you start, you learn to protect yourself. You know, you maybe, you know, do some, you know, grounding meditation and, you know, like protect your auric field and so on, and, you know, like run gold. Or for me, what I've seen works the best is to just let it pass through. You know, as an empath and using my empathic skill to feel people. There is no way I can block them, right? Because otherwise I wouldn't feel them. So I'm just letting pass through. You know, I let the pain pass through, and it goes in and it goes out. You know, and when I'm done with the sessions, you know, I do my little, you know, cleansing ritual, and
So, but you do have
and
like
I don't take them home.
Oh,
You know, and if it happens once in a while that perhaps I forgot to do my little closing ritual because, you know, whatever, someone walked in the room, you know, before I was ready, or, you know, then sometimes, you know, I'll be home and, you know, I'll be taking a shower and going like, oh, I took this person home with me, you know, and so then I have to just, you know, do
okay, so
the release.
there is some kind of self-care after to like leave it behind. That happens.
Yeah, but it can be done really quickly, you know.
Well,
But yeah, for sure.
because like just like relating to like having to take care of clients, sometimes you have to like do something of like, okay, this is done,
Yeah.
toodles. Was like, now I'm off to like my thing.
Right.
And so I was just curious to know like what, like if you had that too, and also if you did somatic healing yourself, because sometimes you need to.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta stay current. You know, it's like there is the childhood issues that we deal with, you know, maybe at the beginning of our training, but there is everyday life, you know, and there is loss that happened 2 weeks ago. You know, people pass, and you know, species are disappearing, and you know, and like all the things that you let into your heart that needs to be constantly cleansed and kept current. So
okay. Another question is like for minority communities, like have you worked with them, and obviously the prejudice and other things that they deal with, has this to a degree has helped people in that community as well deal through that and have empower them to confront that better and better standing? Have people come to you with that sole purpose?
With that sole purpose, I'm not sure, but like, you know, like it's a whole package, you know, and I have, you know, because of my traveling, and I have a very, very strong bond with indigenous people. You know, because, you know, myself, you know, I'm quite mixed blood, you know, and I don't need to go in my origins, but I have spiritually a very strong connection, you know, and I was living in Vancouver in British Columbia, and I had connection with the First Nations. Lived in New Zealand and had strong connection with the Maoris, you know. In Hawaii, I was there, you know, over 15 years, you know, and worked with the Hawaiians. And I started at-risk youth organizations there. I had clinics for the kupunas, you know, which are the elders in the Hawaiian communities. So, you know, I don't think anyone comes specifically to work with. You know, minorities issues, but the minority issue comes with the person, you know, comes with the being, you know. So, you know, my work is all about, you know, supporting and empowering anybody, from, you know, anywhere they are at, you know, and you know, and that's why, you know, you know, when I had my space in Hawaii, we always had low-cost clinics, you know, and you know, and I'm happy that with the online work as well, we're going to be able to offer, you know, things that are easier to afford for minorities that are not able to afford a, you know, a regular therapist fee, right?
Yeah, I can understand that. No, I was just interested because, like, I know, like, I noticed that they don't often have a voice. Well, I'm also part of like the Latino community, so I often feel that the Latino community and other communities don't have a voice. So I was curious if like those community has seeked out and gone work from you, but you've done a ton of work more than I have.
No, definitely, you know, but and you know, so for me, I mean, a human is a human, and we all come with our set of challenges, you know, and you know, harsh life experiences, you know, and sometimes, you know, it's, you know, if we're a woman, sometimes it's been sexual abuse at a young age, or men as well have had sexual abuse at a young age, you know, or you know, like, or things that are more, you know, connected to, you know, to specific communities. But, you know, I think maybe that's why people feel comfortable with me. It's like, from, you know, whoever they are, whatever background they came from. I feel like once they're working with me, I feel like I reflect the beauty of who they are as a human. You know, the beauty of the essence, and the essence before it was hurt. and that I'm willing to be with them in their pain, you know.
That's good.
And that's the most, I mean, I'm getting chills just, you know, saying that. It's like that's what healing is about. It's like to have another human being able to be with you and meet you in your pain. It's, you know, there's no words for it.
No, that's amazing, and I'm glad to know. I'm even glad to know that there is options for like people who can't afford, and it's more affordable, or even can't afford therapy. That's good to know. I definitely want to put more information out there of your stuff.
Right. And I mean, and ultimately, I think the most, you know, in order to create the most impact, you know, and now I'm in a phase of my life where, you know, I want to create the most impact. I'm covering my mic here, but, you know, it's like to be able to train people to do that, right? Because there is so much of me, you know, and it's like, you know, that's why I started doing the classes as well, you know, and that I didn't mention, not just the online classes, but there is workshops that I offer that are called Healing Our Bodies Buried Stories.
Oh, wow.
And that is training people to do the work in their communities, you know, so that's giving them the tools. Not, you know, at this point they won't get a certification out of that, but they will learn in a fairly quick way how to meet someone, you know, in their pain, help them to go deeper, and help them perhaps release, you know, deep grief and loss, etc., in a way that doesn't you know, distract them or engage the mind. I mean, there is a certain set of skill to bring someone to really feel their real feeling, you know. There's a way of asking questions that's going to take someone deeper, and there's a way of asking questions that's going to take someone, you know, to another completely, you know, different place, and they won't be able to reach the healing, you know, truth of where they're at. So the next workshop I'm offering here in Santa Barbara is in December.
Wow.
Because I'm, you know, I'll be doing other things before that, but there's going to be one in December 8th, actually, at Yoga Soup. And that's very affordable, and so that people can come from, you know, all backgrounds to learn how to bring those tools to their communities.
That's good. That's fantastic. Well, sorry. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for what you... because I love the fact that you are going to the communities, the minority communities, or communities that usually don't have a voice, and then just people in general, and then also providing tools and support, and even accessible things, and even accessible for people who have mental illness and disability, and that's wonderful. Like, you're reaching out to all the people.
Yeah. Well, you know, I was, just on a side note, I was given the name Renuka. So the name I use these days is Yemaya Renuka Dubi. Dubi was my father's name. It's my French name. But Renuka was given to me when I was a devotional Bhakti yogini, and I was living in an ashram, in the ashram of Baba Haridas, who's a silent monk. He was in silence for 50 years. And he's the one who gave me the name Renuka, and Renuka means Mother Earth, who provides home for all living beings.
Oh, wow, that's a beautiful name.
And that was amazing, because he took it for my birth date and just sitting with me for a couple of hours, you know, and little did he know that I was trying to create, you know, ecological villages, and that I've always felt, you know, that, you know, like I've always worked with everybody. I feel like I've given the same amount of respect to everybody, because that's how my heart works, and he was able to put it in those words, you know.
Wow.
Give homes to all living beings.
That's pretty amazing.
Bless his heart.
And what got you into going into an ashram?
I'm a good monk. It's well, if you're into astrology, and I think maybe some people are that are watching this.
I think so. There's
show,
plenty of people that I know. Like, I think in general, this like community, from what I know in Santa Barbara, they're pretty into tarot, astrology, and a few other things.
Yeah. So you know, if you look at my my south node, my moon node. I come from a past life of being a monk. Like I was, you know, like really deeply into, you know, monasteries and ashrams, and it's something that comes natural to me. It's easy for me to be, not only because I love the community life, but I also can enjoy, you know, having a pretty focused path. in this lifetime, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. You know, this lifetime. You know, so I came from Sagittarius, and now I'm going to Gemini North Node. You know, which is really about being in community. But I still love those times. You know, and as I was growing myself up, you know, that's how I ended up in the Zen monastery. You know, and then you know, Hindu ashrams, and you know, finding my ways. You know, in those different places.
But I love the fact that you just went into the community and like, I'm gonna immerse myself here and get it in, and like, and even connect with the community. Like in Hawaii, that's where you did the clinics and built support, and provided different. That's amazing. You don't hear that often.
I like to go in depth. You know, it's just part of my makeup. You know, so if I'm living in Hawaii, I want to learn the very deep, you know, traditions. You know, I would dance hula, you know, and learn, you know, about huna from my Hawaiian teacher, from my kumu. You know, if I'm studying yoga, I'm not just going to go to study the physical practice of asanas. You know, and that's how I ended up doing the ashram. I wanted to learn Sanskrit, and I wanted to learn all the purifications that, you know, I wanted to learn the Vedas, you know. So, you know, I like in-depth work.
I respect that, because you have like all that kind of brought this amazing thing of like connecting with different communities and trying to give them the kind of support that each individual needs, which is the most effective way of doing it, because each person's a individual, complicated being.
Yes.
But no, that's fantastic. And so, like, how would people connect with you if they want this work in whatever specific thing they need?
Yeah, thank you. I think the easiest way right now is to look for my current website, which is going to change fairly soon, but it will take you to the next one that I'm birthing right now. It's yourbelovedhealth.com. So yourbelovedhealth.com. You know, I still take some clients in my somatic practice here in Santa Barbara. I share a space downtown.
Practice?
Yes, I do.
You have to give me that info so I can post it.
Yes, of course. And then the online classes, the one-on-one online sessions have started already. And yeah, I think the best way, it's simple for people to just find me through yourbelovedhealth.com, and they'll find the infos there. And very soon it's going to be yemayarenuka.com, where there'll be all the online practice and so on.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, thank you. And give me the information so I can post it. And to the community, thank you for watching. There'll be another episode next month, and I am trying to get my master from Capoeira to do it.